Okay, in this video we're going to continue on with our chat program here. One of the things that we wanted to add, no chat program is complete without the emoji, right? You can express yourself with images in text conversations, right? So what we're going to want to do here is we've been cleaning up this message, right? We have the new message that we get from our text box, right? And as soon as we hit send or press enter, we have to grab the data from the message box, that's new message, and we pass that into this function cleanup message. Cleanup message goes through and searches for individual things. This is for security, and also so what gets rendered in the text view, the chat view, is the actual text that you type out, because otherwise if I type in HTML, like an image tag for example, this would get rendered as an image tag. That's not what we want. There are security implications to that, and also that's probably not what the sender of the message wants to happen. They actually want to communicate with text. Okay, so we did a little bit of security filtering there. So we replaced all of the ampersand characters with the HTML entity and ampersand. We replaced the less than symbol with the HTML entity for less than, which an HTML entity again is just like an escape sequence of characters. And then finally, the last thing we did, we had to do this one last because here we're stripping out this character for HTML. But on this last one, we're swapping in new lines for these BR tags. But we do want these BR tags to be in there, right? So this has to happen after we escape what the user has typed in. Right now, everything after this point, we actually do want the HTML to be in there. So the ordering is very important here. All right. So this is cleanup message, and basically adding emojis is real similar to this cleanup message. All right. So we basically want to add a new function here, new message, and we're going to say add emojis, and we're going to pass in new message. All right, and what we're going to do is we're going to make a function just like cleanup message. So underneath cleanup message, we're going to have function add emojis. Okay, so this is going to be very similar to what we have up here. At some point we're going to be searching for emojis, and we're going to search for something and then replace it with something else. Right, so what do we want to search for and replace? Right, so we're going to get some message in here, and eventually we're just going to return that after we've altered the message. So just so everything keeps working, right now this function is basically a pass-through. You call the function, give it a message, and it just returns the same thing. But what we're going to do is we're going to add some replacements inside here. But for now, we'll put this in here so everything still works. We reload the page, and everything still works fine. All right. One thing we need to do is maybe down here we're going to have a list of the emojis that we want to use, right? So if we go up to this area in our chat controls, after the button, I want a BR tag. Oops. BR tag. Like that. So that's going to give me a new line. Normally I'd probably want to use a span here and say, I'll go ahead and do a span, and the style here is font weight bold. So this is a long version. It's the preferred version of using a B tag. B tags are kind of frowned upon these days. /B, that just means bold, right? So most of the time in professional development you're going to use a span tag, so you might as well just get used to typing it out. So you have a span, the style is font weight bold, right? Or we could put a class here, but that's an awful lot we're just making a little label. So these are the emojis, right? And then we're going to have a BR tag here. And what we want to do is list out our emojis, right? So we can say we're going to have another span, style, border, 1px, solid, black, px. text. And here, this is going to be the emoji we use. So we're going to have a dog emoji and a cat emoji. Right? So the dog emoji is going to represent this image. And you can use any image you like. I'm just going to use place kitten and place puppy because they're easy. But this would be a source http placepuppy.com / and placepuppy does 15 pixels, and then you have an X and then 15 pixels. Okay, so that's the place puppy one. So basically when someone types this in the chat message, it's going to be replaced with this image, right? And so similar thing for the cat. We're going to do one for cats, and we have cat here, and instead of placepuppy.com we have place kitten, and place kitten doesn't use the /, they use a separate route. Okay, so this is 15 by 15 pixels. Okay, so what we should have here now is down at the bottom, the dog translates into this dog emoji, and when we say cat, that translates into this cat emoji, right? And we might want to do something like text align middle or something like that. So for these images, we could say class equals emoji. So it would be vertical align middle, I mean. Class emoji. And we just add vertical align middle. Alright, we save that, and if we reload the page, that just kind of makes it line up a little bit better, right? But it could be that we want baseline. Maybe we don't want that. So we'll play around with this. We might end up removing it. But basically, we can have any number of emojis we want. We're just going to try out dog, and that's going to give us this tiny little image. You can't even see it very well. You'd probably want to use better images. Cat, and then this little image, right? So that's why the animation, the cartoony kind of style is good, because in small, very small pictures, the bold lines of an animation stand out a little bit better than an actual picture. It's kind of hard to tell what these things actually are. But this is just a demonstration anyway. So we have our basically what we want to search for and what we want to replace it with for both of these, okay? So we need to keep track of that in JavaScript somewhere. So we have our add emojis function here. What we need is we need a list of let's see, what would this be called? Emojis as text. So these are the emojis before the replacement. Emojis as text. And this is going to be an array. And as text, we have colon, dog, colon. So anytime that's encountered in one of our text messages here, we're going to replace that with something else, right? And we're also going to search for the emoji colon cat colon, right? And we can have as many of these as we want, right? Now we're going to have a list of equal length. It's very important that this list is the same length as the one above, and this is the emojis as HTML. Now this is a variable, and most of the time when I say HTML in variables names that I create, it's like this, with capital H and lowercase tml. That seems to be the standard everywhere I've been, but remember when we use inner HTML, that HTML is all capitalized. Like up here, inner HTML must be capitalized. Very, very important you remember that. Okay, so this is just a made up variable name, so I'm not capitalizing all the HTML. Alright, so we have two emojis as text, which means we need to have two emojis as HTML. Okay, so those emojis we have, we can scroll up and just copy and paste what we have here. Now since this text has double quotes, probably what I'm going to want to do is have my string delimiters up here be single quotes, and then the double quotes will be fine. And do the same down here with the place kitten emoji. Okay. So this add emojis is basically mimicking some of this functionality. We're doing pretty much the same thing, right? We have some found index and we're searching for something, right? And we find the thing and replace with something else. The replacement is the emoji HTML. This, what we're searching for, is the emoji text, right? And then we do this. This is the length of the replacement, right? So we're going to copy and paste this because we're going to be using it a lot. It's very similar in this function, right? Now the difference is we have to do this once for cat, or dog here, and we have to do it once for cat. And potentially we could have hundreds of emojis, right? So we need to do this in an efficient way. I could make 2 of these and manually type in dog and manually type in the replacement, right? But that's not efficient because we could have hundreds. So what I need to do instead is make a for loop. Okay, and this code is going to exist inside of that for loop. So for variable let I, let's see, there we go, let I equal 0, while I is less than, and this is why both of these lists need to be the same length. You can just pick either one of them, emojis as text or as HTML, dot length, pick either one, it doesn't matter. And this for loop is going to go from I equals 0 to as long as I is less than the length, which means we're basically getting a valid index. So if there's 100 of these, I will be 100 different values and never be outside the bounds of the array. Alright, so we have this for loop now. And what we want to go inside is we want to repeatedly search for something. Okay, we're not going to be searching for ampersand, so ignore this for right now. We can kind of comment this out. But what we do need is we're searching for something, right? So we can say let or const searching for. What are we searching for? Well, we're going to be searching for the emojis as text, right? So, but that's an array. Which one of these emojis for text are we searching for? Well, whichever one this for loop is ready for, right? It starts out at 0, which is the first one we're searching for. Then I becomes 1 and searches for the next one. And if we have 100 of them, it would go to 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, all the way down to 99, right? So this is what we're searching for. The first time through the loop, it's dog. Now, what are we replacing with? So const replacing with. That is our emojis as HTML. Right? Emojis is HTML. Which one though? Because this is an array. Well, just like up here, emojis is text, it's emojis as HTML with index I. Okay, so we're searching for dog here the first time through the loop. Searching for is dog with the colons around it, and then replacing with is this string here. Right? And so now we're actually ready for this code. So let's uncomment that, but we're going to have to tweak it a little bit. So we want to search for something. Instead of the ampersand, we're searching for. All right. And then here, if we found something, we need to replace what we were searching for with what we're replacing with. Right? Might make this easier with just search for and replace with. So search for and replace with. So search for, replace with. There we go. And then this ampersand is again search for, and then found index plus. Now this is the length of whatever we're replacing with. So replace with dot length. Okay, so you see how we reuse the pattern over and over. And we could probably make this whole thing into a function to reduce our code, but I'll leave that to you. All right, because we would use it again here. We're using it in at least 4 different places, and in this one's in a loop, which means we're using it lots of times. All right, so this replacement method might be a handy one to pull out and make one single function to reduce our code. All right, so this looks like it should work, and at the end we are just returning our message. Alright, so let's see what we have. We're going to replace or refresh the page, and I can just try dog real quick and see if that works. And sure enough, I got an image, and I can say I love dogs. I think dogs are the best. And then I can also have cat and cat. Alright, so if I run this, I'm expecting dog to be replaced with the image, right? And cat to be replaced with those images. And all of these should work, right? Because we searched repeatedly until there were no more of these items, right? I love dogs, I think dogs are the best, and then cat, hyphen cat, hyphen cat. Again, these are just test images, right? You could do whatever you wanted there. So we might not want emoji to be vertically aligned. We might want the bottoms of these to line up with the bottom of the text. So we might want to fix what we added up here. We might remove this, right? Or we can comment that out for now. We can decide to come back later. All right, so that's I love dogs. Refresh the page and see what happens here. Or another way we could do that is we'll leave that on because it does look better down here. We'll leave that on and leave class emoji here, which is this area, so it looks better. Right, that looks a little bit better there for some reason. And you could tweak all this, but then when we actually add it in, we'll just remove this class, and so it won't be there. All right, so now we get the best of both worlds. So now let's look. We say dog. Alright, so there we go. So that is emojis, right? And this is all what's called adding pre-processing. So we're taking a message from the user and we're processing it, right? We're making modifications to it before we display it. So pre-processing. So we're pre-processing the information, right? And there's other things you can do with this besides emoji. We'll do one more thing real quick with rolling the dice. Okay, so we can add more pre-processors. So add pre-processors. There we go. All right, and this is going to be just like add emojis. We're going to have something as text. We're going to have something to replace as HTML, right? And we're going to do this exact same thing here, right? So all of this we're basically going to copy, and this is, we're doing it this way. We're only going to have one item here. This isn't going to be as emojis. This is going to be pre-processors as text, and we're going to say /roll. Okay, so whenever someone types /roll, that's going to be replaced with something else. All right, and this is the preprocessor result as HTML. Okay, and the result that we actually want to happen there, in this case, this needs to be a function because we're going to randomly generate some numbers. Okay, so in this array, in JavaScript, you can have arrays of functions. And what I actually want here is I'm going to take math.random, and that should give me a number between 0 and 1, a decimal value, right? And if I want to make that number between 0 and or 1 and 6, right? If I want it between 0 and 5, right, I could just multiply by 6. Okay, because math.random is never actually 1. It's between 0, it can be 0, and it's never actually 1. So it's anything right below 1. So it can never actually, if I multiply it by 6, if it's never actually 1, if it was 1, it would be 6, but it's never actually 1, so the most it could be is 5, right? And if it is 0, you know, the least it could be is 0 times 6, which would be 0. Right, but I also need to take the floor of that, so math.floor. So that basically takes off the decimal, right? So this is going to give us the idea of rolling a dice. So this will give us, or a die, this will give us math.floor. This will give us 0 through 5, right? But we want a 6-sided die, so we're going to add 1 to that, and that will give us 1 to 6. So this number is our roll value. Right, so this is some roll value we get, and then we want to return some message. Return. Let's see. We're going to return. We're going to use a template string in JavaScript so we can plug in these values easily. But what we're saying here is you rolled a, and then plug in roll value. So in a template string, if you use $ and then curly braces, whatever you paste in here, this is a JavaScript that gets executed, right? So we're evaluating this variable, and it's going to get injected into the string right here. So if this is 6, it's going to say you rolled a 6. And you can put an exclamation point at the end if you want. Okay, so this one is slightly different because we are checking for preprocessor as text. We need to check to see that the whole line is this. If somebody types /roll inside of a message, we don't want it to occur, but if this is the beginning, if this is the entire message, we do. And there's all sorts of things you could do to this. You could have arguments like what side die they want to roll, that sort of thing. All kinds of neat things you can do with a chat program. All right, but we're going to keep it as simple as possible. And instead of add emoji here, the name of this, if we look back up, we said add preprocessors, right? So we'll scroll down and make sure those names match up. So this is not add emojis, this is add preprocessors. We have our initial message, and we want to make sure that for each one of our preprocessors as text, that's what we're going to look through. pp as text.length. So what are we searching for? We are searching for pp as text, preprocessor as text I, and then what are we replacing with? We are replacing with preprocessor as HTML, but this is a function, so we have to call it. And the reason it has to be a function is because we want a different random number every time. All right, so we'll just leave it as this. I'll leave it to you to sort out searching for /roll, making sure it's like the only thing at the beginning of the string. I mean, basically all you do is you don't need the while loop, right? You would just say, you know, basically if the message equals that line, right? So we'll leave it as is. That could get a little bit more in depth, but it's not too bad to figure out. So anyway, let's test this out and see if we have a roll working. And there's probably going to be some sort of error here, but looks like it's working okay. Copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. Okay, so look, that looks like it's working. And so you guys can have dice games in your chat. Okay, so this is all fairly common types of things you can do with a chat program, and this is all client-based. And if you incorporate a back-end service, you can connect all the pieces together, and there's quite a bit more you can do. Okay, so this has been a kind of an intro into a common technological feature in websites these days is some sort of chat.